In today's video, we're doing all new Dollar Tree DIYs. Pottery Barn has some of their new pieces out right now, and when I was looking on their website, I came across these textured vases. I thought we could definitely recreate these. So you could get some vases at Dollar Tree, or I thrifted my vases. You just want two vases that are different sizes. You want a smaller one and a larger one. And we're gonna start with spackling. Spackling is one of those great mediums that you can put on your vases. So I bought these smaller containers of spackling, and you wanna put on gloves, and I'm gonna start by just putting it on my entire vase. You want to completely cover your vase, making it as smooth as possible. So do your best to not show any of the glass underneath your vase. And for my gloves, I'm going to be wearing these new gloves that I bought off of Amazon. They're great. They're perfect for DIYing. I will link them for you down below. You're going to cover both of your vases before moving on to our next step. Remember in our inspiration picture, it looks like somebody actually combed through those vases. So that's what I did. I went to Dollar Tree and I got some of their combs over in the hair aisle. You're gonna start with one of the combs. And what I love about this is the texture on this is not perfect. So you can start at the top and kind of draw a line down. It doesn't have to go the entire way, just go down a little bit. Then you wanna make sure that you wipe off your comb because it's going to have a lot of spackling on it. And then I just went around my vases and just started drawing lines, and I didn't want them all to be in the same direction. I wanted them to kind of shoot out at different angles. Really, this is just personal preference. So start doing this around your vase, and then you can repeat those steps on your larger vase as well. I wasn't sure exactly how this was going to turn out. After you've kind of done some of your lines, you want to take a step back and look at it and see where you need to add in additional comb lines on this vase. But do it until you're happy with it, and then you're going to let this sit and dry overnight. That's really key with this piece because that spackling, although it says it's quick dry, it does take a little bit of time to dry. Now we're gonna come back in with paint, and I really wanted to try to match the colors on this paint as closely as possible. So I went with a neutral color. This was a paint sample I got at the beginning of the year, and it's a great neutral color that I'm going to paint on all the vases. I'm gonna completely cover each of my vases with this color. I find that when I'm doing textured vases like this, it's really good to add in a little bit of dimension. So I came in with a white, lighter color. And I don't want to completely cover my vase with this white color, but I'm going to lightly brush it around the edges. Now, if you get too much white, don't worry. You can always come back in with your original color and dab that on top as well. But just add in that white color until you're happy with the highlights. Let that dry, and here's how these two vases turned out. Have you ever played June's Journey? If not, June's Journey is a hidden object mystery game. Each new scene takes you further through a thrilling murder mystery story, with engaging stories of family relationships and betrayal. The story is constantly evolving, with new chapters launching every week, so you can find something new in the game every day. And I want to thank June's Journey for sponsoring today's video. So why do I like the game? The game follows June Parker, who investigates the death of her sister Claire and her brother-in-law Harry. So June does not agree with the police, so she begins her own quest to uncover the truth. In the game, you're going to look for hidden objects to uncover details about the crime, which sometimes can be kind of tricky to find. For example, check out these two hidden object scenes from the game. One of the crucial clues is hidden in plain sight in this scene. Can you spot the difference and find the clue? June's Journey is a great game to unwind with at the end of the day, and I find it really entertaining to play. And the best part is it's free to download. I will put a link to June's Journey down in the description box of today's video so you can click on it and download, or I'm going to put the QR code right here. You can just scan this to download the game. June's Journey is available on Android and iOS mobile devices, as well as on PC. Now, the answer to the hidden object scene was the three glasses sitting on the table. Was someone else with Claire and Harry before they died, or is it just a coincidence? Make sure you download the game to continue the investigation. I love to go shopping at Dollar Tree at the beginning of the year because I feel like that's when we get some of those new decor items after the holidays, and I found what I think is going to be my favorite decor item of this year. I know that's a bold statement because it's just the beginning of the year, but this leaf tray is so pretty. I couldn't believe that it was just $1.25. So I went ahead and picked it up. And when I saw this, my immediate thought was, this needs to be gold. So it was kind of cold at my house, but we had a warm day. So I was able to take it outside and spray paint it with a metallic gold color. So I spray painted the back side and the top of this piece. Once it was dry, I brought it back in and it was gold. I wanted it to have a little dimension, so I'm using 3 different shades of gold rub and buff. You can buy this in a pack off of Amazon and I will link to it below. But I put those out on my table and got a foam brush. And then I just lightly put the gold rub and buff over this. There was a lot of raised areas on there, so I could add that texture with the gold rub and buff. And that's really all I did, but all the different golds I think work well together. And I think this looks so pretty sitting out on a sideboard or your coffee table, and you would never guess it was $1.25. Another new item I spotted this year are these green vases. So pretty. You guys know I love green. Obviously, I'm wearing it. So I had to get these green vases. I didn't like the ribbon that was wrapped around those, so I went ahead and removed those. And I wanted to kind of do something fun with these. So I went on Amazon and I found these temporary tattoos. Now, I know you're thinking tattoos, like little kid tattoos. No, these are pretty. I found these pretty floral decals. They're almost like decals that you could create, but these were perfect. I went through and I picked out the florals that I liked and I cut those out. And then to put them on my vase, all I had to do was place the decal onto the vase. And then I took a paper towel that I got wet and then I put it on the back side. Once the backing was saturated, I could just pull the backing up and that tattoo was set in place and it wasn't going anywhere. So on each of my vases, I put about 2 decals. I think one of them I added 3 on, and this took me just a couple of minutes to do. It was so easy. And I think they look pretty sitting out, and it just gives them a little bit something extra with those floral decals. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Comment the word of the day, which is DIY. This is an easy 5-minute craft that anyone can do. Last month, I was testing out some coffee stains, and I bought this coffee called Nescafe in order to stain and create pretty artwork, and it actually worked really well. I tried adding in different amounts of water to see how the consistency was, and if I added in more water, it was going to be more translucent, and less water, it was going to give me a deeper, richer color. And now that I know that this coffee stain works, I wanted to try it on a wood item. So when I was shopping at Dollar Tree, over in that new section, I found these new frames. So I wanted to try to stain this frame with the coffee. So I took a little bit of the coffee and put it in a bowl and added in some water, mixed it together. Next, using my foam brush, I'm going to dip it into the coffee stain and run it along the front of my wood, and then I'll remove the excess with a paper towel. Now, I was noticing that it wasn't giving me like a super rich color, so I did add in a little bit more coffee to my bowl to make it a little bit more rich, to make it stand out. But it gave me a nice light stain. I don't know if it's going to give you a really dark stain. If that's what you're going for, you might want to use a traditional stain, but I love that this was a natural way that I could stain my wood. So I let that dry completely. Then I went back in my craft room and I found this canvas print that I never did anything with. And I thought, love this print. This would be perfect to put in this frame. This canvas print is from Dollar Tree. So I used a scrap piece of paper, placed the frame down, and then I used my pencil to draw a circle in the frame. Then I cut out the scrap paper, leaving about 1 centimeter around the edge because I don't have a lot of room to work with. And then I took that paper and put it onto my canvas where I wanted it to cut out. I started by using a pencil. I did have to go back in and use a Sharpie later because it was hard to see those pencil lines. And then I just started to cut out my circle. You want to make sure that you can put your circle canvas piece on your frame without seeing it in the little cutout. Once you can do that, you can just add some hot glue to add the canvas to the back of your frame. Now, I also thought it'd be fun to hang this up, so I bought some burgundy ribbon, tied that in a bow, and then I hot glued that down. But after I was looking at it, I really just didn't like the way the burgundy ribbon looked, so I decided to swap that out. So went over in my ribbons and I found this cream colored, almost ivory ribbon that I had, and I put that on the exact same way. I tied a bow and then figured out where I wanted it and then hot glued it to the back. And here's how that frame turned out. Last time I was shopping at Dollar Tree, I was over in the plus section because I always stop by there to see if there's anything new that I need. And I found this checkerboard set. Got it home, and I will say I was really hoping that it was a wood checkered board set so that I could stain it, but it wasn't. It just had a vinyl piece on the top. It was still super cute, and I thought it would make a great tray sitting out in my home. So I set it out, and then I added these gold candles. I bought these back in, I think it was around October. And at the time I put these Christmas tree candles in there, but I'm not going to use the Christmas tree candles right now. But the gold candles I can use year round. I just put some white candles that I had on hand, and I think this looks really pretty. This would be cute sitting out on a sideboard or your coffee table. If you're looking for an affordable stem this time of year that looks really high end, I want to encourage you to go to Walmart and check these out. They're very affordable. They come in a set of 3. So you're gonna get 3 stems in a set, and I bought 3 sets to put them in my vase. Now, what vase am I gonna be using? I have this glass vase from Dollar Tree. Now, this is not $1.25. This is one of their $5 vases. They do have several vases in the plus section now. You're also going to need some moss. Now, I have a wide variety of moss, but you may need some different colors, and honestly I was just using up what I already had on hand. I saw this picture on Pottery Barn's website where they had a clear vase with moss at the bottom, and I just thought it looked so pretty. So that's kind of what I wanted to recreate. So I didn't know if I needed to cut my stems down or if I could keep them the way they are, but I just started with my stems and I folded them in half and placed them into the vase. So I put all 9 stems into my vase. Then I started to add in my moss, and really I started with the moss that I didn't want to show the most. The really green moss I don't like as much. I like more of the natural green, kind of those deep greens. And then I also like the Spanish moss. So I continued to add in the moss until I was happy with it. I wanted to make sure all of my stems were covered at the bottom. I also changed around the stems, made sure I liked the placement, and I think this turned out great. If you love that look of the clear moss vase, this would be a good trend to try out, or just get these stems on their own because they would be beautiful in any vase. If you're needing some extra seating in your living room or different areas of your house, let me show you how you can create a floor pillow. So you're going to need a rug. This is a long rug that I bought at Walmart, and it's one of those runner rugs, so it was a little bit longer than I actually needed. I only wanted the pieces to be about 20 inches long. So I measured out on either side 20 inches, and then I drew a line straight across. I cut it off because I don't want to use that center portion. So I did that on both sides. I measured out 20 inches, drew the line, and cut it. And then that center portion I'm not going to be using. The other thing you have to think about is your tassels. So I wanted tassels to be on both sides. So I moved the pieces so that I had tassels on either side. Now, with a lot of pillows, when you make them, you want to do the insides together and you're gonna sew it. We're gonna be using hot glue, so I wanna put the pretty sides on the outside. And I'm gonna start by hot gluing on one side, then I'm gonna hot glue on the parallel sides, and I'm gonna leave the last side open. And then I'm gonna begin by stuffing in any filler you have. You can buy this at Walmart. I usually have a couple bags on hand, but I'm going to add in the filler. Once I have it as stuffed as I think I need it to be, I'll hot glue the edges. Now I find when you hot glue the edges, you want to do this slowly. So do a little bit, hold it in place and make sure your glue is completely dry, and then just finish up so that you have those nice clean edges that are holding in place. Go around your pillow and make sure that everything is attached. You don't have any areas that are coming up. If you do, just re-hot glue those. And this makes a great floor pillow sitting out. If you like decorative boxes, you can pick them up at Dollar Tree. I spotted this one on my shopping trip. Now I will warn you, this one is $5. It's in the plus section. That's one of the things about Dollar Tree right now. We have to make sure we check and make sure it's $1.25 or $3 or $5. This one is $5. I did want to paint this, so I started by using one of those tiny screwdrivers and I removed the lid, just the lid portion. I left the hinges on the back of the main portion because I'm going to keep that one intact. And on my lid, I painted that with a neutral khaki color. This was another sample paint that I had on hand, and I painted the top of it, and then I also painted the underside. Because I painted both sides at once, I did have to elevate it and let it dry. Then I just used that same screwdriver and added the hinges back onto the lid. And these are great. They're great decorative boxes that you can use in your kitchen to hide keys or items you don't want to look at, or you can use it in your living room with your remotes. On one of my thrifting trips, I came across this $4 frame and I thought it was super cute. Loved the shape of it. I loved that it was already, not perfect, and I just got it. I didn't know when I was going to use it, but today is the day. So I needed to create a print to go inside of my frame. So I started with a piece of poster board. This was just a scrap poster board I had, and I cut it down so that it would fit perfectly into my frame. So I started by kind of eyeballing it, and then I just cut little sections until it was going to fit completely flat into this frame. I added a layer of spackling across the top, and I just used spackling that I had in my craft room, and then I'm also going to use a putty knife, and I don't want it to be perfect. When you're putting on the spackling, the key here is you want it to be level. You don't want the areas in the middle to be a little bit more raised up, so you want it as level as possible, but come back in with your putty knife and just kind of make it have a little bit of texture. Now, this is where I'm just going to let it sit, and I'm not going to do anything more. So I let that dry overnight. Then I came back in and I wanted to add on some details. So I started by mixing spackling with some of my sample paints. I did a light khaki color. And using a spackling knife, I created some leaves. Now these do not have to be perfect. They didn't all look the same. This was honestly something I was just freehanding, doing by what I was feeling. Then I wanted to create another shape of leaf, so I changed up my spackling knife, and then I mixed some colors so that it was a little bit darker. And then using more of a rounded edge spackling knife, I created another pattern. Then I thought, wouldn't it be cute if I had maybe some flowers on there? I created petals in a circle, tried to put about 5 petals on. So at this point, I let it dry. I wasn't sure if I was done with it or not, but when I came back, I wanted this to just be more muted and kind of all flow together. So I used a white colored paint, and I also mixed it with a little bit of water, and I just dabbed the paint over my entire piece of art. And that really kind of muted down those colors. It made them blend a little bit better together. But this is totally personal preference. You could have stopped at the last step that I did. You could have used whatever colors you wanted. This is just what I wanted for my home. So I let that dry completely, and I was pretty happy with the way it looked after that. So then I just took the art, put it into my frame, and it was a little bit long on one end, so I did have to kind of fold it over on one end. I thought I measured it perfectly, but who knows what happened. And then I just clasped it on the back. I didn't do anything to the frame. I really liked how it had that worn in look, and I hung it up in my home. The next time you're shopping at Dollar Tree, you may come across this polymer clay and wonder, does this work? Does it not work? The other thing that I was excited to see is they have a lot of clay tools. Like there was this entire set of clay tools that you could use. They also had cutout shapes, and they had these texture boards. So you could actually press your clay into these boards and get a cool texture. So I wanted to see how well this worked for you guys. So I got all the colors, I got all of the texture boards, and I thought, let's try to make some cool magnets. So I started with the colored polymer clay, and I have to tell you, it was hard to work with. It was not very pliable, it didn't mold well, and it was really hard to roll out. I was able to work with it, but I have to say, was not my favorite clay. So off the bat, I wasn't super impressed with it. I did use the cutters and they worked well. I just wasn't super into any of the shape they had. I tried using the arch for one of them, and then I used the circle. The shapes were okay, but they weren't amazing. I did really like the tools that came with it. I thought those were great. The other thing I tried to use was the clay boards. And I have to say, of all the things I used, these were probably my favorite because each of the clay boards had a design on the backs and the front side. So you could really create a design on your board. I used several of these clay boards. So I definitely think the clay boards are worth getting, even if you used clay from another place. So I rolled out 4 different shapes. I used the boards to kind of press in shapes. Now, the other problem with this clay is there was no directions on how to bake it. So I went and baked it at 220 degrees for about 20 minutes. I will say that was probably a good amount of time. Once everything was dry after I was done baking it, I wanted to add on some rub and buff because I felt like the texture that I put on would really stand out with rub and buff. I did it first on my arch pieces and didn't love it. But then I added some rub and buff to the other pieces and it looked really good. So I definitely think the rub and buff is a cool idea to kind of go with your textured pieces. To make these into magnets, I did hot glue on some magnets that I already had from a previous project on the back. In the end, they turned out pretty cute, but I don't think I'll be repurchasing this clay because it was just a little bit too hard to work with. But the things I would pick up again are the tool set because they would work with any clay and they're really affordable. The other thing I thought were great are those textured boards. They would work with any clay as well. So that's my review on the clay at Dollar Tree. Don't forget to download June's Journey. I'll put a link to it down in the description box below, or you can scan the QR code right here. Let me know down in the comments which of these DIYs was your favorite. I love knowing your opinion. And make sure you subscribe because I want to see you back here, and I'll see you in our next one. Bye.